Good evening, I'm Prasad Michael and you're watching Kini News, the show that brings you today's biggest stories. Malaysia moves closer to the two-thirds mark of those cured, with over 62% of COVID-19 patients having recovered. COVID-19 recoveries continue to grow in Malaysia, with the Health Ministry Director General Dr. Noor Hisham Abdullah reporting 103 recoveries on Wednesday. This puts the total number of recoveries to 3,452. However, there are still new cases being reported. During the daily press conference in Putrajaya today, Dr. Hisham said 50 new cases were detected, with one new death, bringing the death toll to 93. With the improvements and the end of the third phase of the movement control order approaching, a decision has not been made yet on the next course of action, but the new norms will continue.
And to promote in terms of the new norms that we have. So all of us today, we practice new norm. For example, we do not shake hand anymore. So from a distance, the way we greet people, it really changed. And then we continue to have social distancing. We continue to maintain a high standards of hygiene, for example, and take all the precautionary measures. So these standards will be there, and it will be transcend across all ministry and departments. So these are the 5 criteria that we need to fulfill before we can even consider to end the MCO.
Dr. Hisham said the ministry will discuss whether or not to extend the MCO closer to April 28th.
The date 28th of April, but maybe 2 or 3 days or even 4 days before the end of 28, we will advise the Prime Minister based on our modelling, based on the facts and figures that we have, and based on the advisory from the WHO, and customize the advisory to our local needs.
Remember all those people who rushed to their hometowns when the MCO was first announced? I guess they didn't expect the MCO to last that long, and now they don't want to remain there much longer. Later this week, Muslims around the world will begin their fasting month, with many Muslims in the country expected to be making preparations for the month of Ramadan. To make sure everything goes smoothly and to avoid overcrowding at certain places, Senior Minister Ismail Sabri Yaakob shared some advice during a press conference today.
Saya harap sewaktu pembelian, sama ada di pasar atau di pasar raya sekalipun, patuhlah kepada arahan yang dikeluarkan, termasuk penjarakan sosial dan sebagainya dilaksanakan.
Ismail Sabri said that people could also plan their shopping to avoid long queues during peak hours. He added that based on observations so far, social distancing appears to be practiced in supermarkets. Meanwhile, those who returned to their respective hometowns before the MCO came into effect may be feeling stuck and wish to return to the cities now that it's been over a month.
Sebelum PKP, ramai di kalangan rakyat kita berebut-rebut untuk pulang ke kampung halaman masing-masing. Mereka dah berada di kampung masing-masing lebih dari sebulan. Banyak yang membuat aduan, yang mengadu kepada kita, dah tak ada pakaian dah nak pakai kerana terlalu lama berada di kampung dan sebagainya. Kita faham tentang keresahan mereka dan keinginan mereka untuk pulang ke rumah mereka.
These people have been urged to inform the authorities of their domestic travel needs in order for the government to design safe procedures for them to do so. To register an interest in travelling, the public can use the Gerak Malaysia smartphone application. For those without the necessary equipment, these registrations can be conducted at any police station with prior appointment to avoid crowding.
Walau bagaimanapun, perkara ini masih di dalam kajian, ya. Jika pergerakan akan bermula pun, saya percaya mungkin bermula selepas 1 Mei nanti. Sebelum itu, kita masih lagi kita jangka adalah di dalam peringkat kajian kita. Dan tidak ada jaminan lagi, ya, kerana setakat ini kita masih lagi menunggu laporan yang akan bermula pada 25 bulan nanti. Jadi setiap reports, setiap laporan ke balai polis ataupun online pun bermula 25 bulan, dan waktu masa itulah kita akan melihat seramai mana yang nak pulang dan sebagainya.
With less than a week until the end of the third phase of the MCO, the number of daily arrests remained high, with 865 individuals arrested on Tuesday for violating the order. This brings the total number of people arrested for violating the MCO to over 17,000. It's been 3 months since COVID-19 reared its ugly head in our country. It brought with it a surge in demand for personal protective equipment or PPE. While there have been heartwarming stories of volunteers and NGOs pouring their time and money into producing PPEs for frontliners, it also raises some big questions. Vivian Yap has more. Tan Yen Ni, a social activist in the leprosy community, was invited to join the Sungai Buloh Hospital PPE support group last month. The group raises funds and mobilizes small garment factories to produce PPEs for the hospital. So far, they've managed to provide more than 13,000 PPEs and some PVC bed linens for the hospital to date.
Started to help them to source for the material and try to contact some fabric factories to get the quotations, and also through the donation from my friends and supporters, we managed to supply the hospital with their orders, to take their orders and supply them with the necessary PPEs.
The Health Ministry previously assured the public that there was sufficient supply of PPEs. This was especially the case because most of the 34 COVID-19 hospitals in the country have formed their own PPE support groups since last month to source for additional PPEs, with stories of fundraising and volunteering making headlines. One of those still raising funds for the cause is Yen Ni. According to her, the PPEs supplied by MOH are not always consistent with the demand, and often there is a mismatch between what's given and what's needed by the medical frontliners. The support group is there to fill that gap. In Johor, Kluang MP Wong Soo Kee has also been raising funds and mobilizing private factories in a constituency to provide PPEs for the Kluang General Hospital for the past month. She says there is an absence of a cohesive government strategy in securing PPEs for the frontliners.
It is quite understandable when we first went into MCO, Movement Control Order, that everyone is in Kiauti mode. But now we are going to 5th week. It is quite sad that some of our hospitals have yet to receive the PPE from central government. And also they are still relying on private sector support or sponsor on PPE and other things.
Wong also revealed that several SMEs that she had approached for donations really wanted to help, but they simply couldn't afford doing so anymore.
This system is going to collapse very soon because with the economic downturn, everyone just stayed at home. The look at the GDP and look at the economic performance, we know it is going to be very bad. And we are still asking people to donate. How long we can survive?
Vivian Yap reporting for Kini TV. Residents under the Enhanced Movement Control Order in Selayang have been complaining that they have not been receiving food. However, the mayor of Kuala Lumpur said this morning that food is coming. On Tuesday, there were news reports stating that food has yet to be sent to residents in the vicinity of the Kuala Lumpur wholesale market who are confined under the Enhanced Movement Control Order. However, that is about to change because food is on its way, according to Kuala Lumpur Mayor Nur Hisham Dahlan. He said the government will provide food for the 16,000 residents around the Selayang wholesale market area. A multi-agency crisis management centre, CMC, set up for the federal territories has instructed food to be sent to the Selayang area. The mayor said DBKL will also help in the logistical aspects of the operation. The 14-day enhanced MCO was imposed this week after the death of a 36-year-old Burmese man who was admitted to the Selayang hospital on April 17th. The death led authorities to implement mass screenings in the market area and found 28 people infected with COVID-19. The lockdown largely affected migrant workers and Rohingya refugees who earn a living at the market. The affected areas are part of Pusat Bandar Utara, Taman Sri Murni, Taman Batu View and Taman Batu Hampa. Now that's what the mayor is saying, but how about the people there? Did the food actually arrive? As of 7 p.m. this evening, there were no signs of food for the residents of Taman Sri Murni, Fasa 2.
We can't get any supply, even if my family members want to send groceries, we are not allowed to receive it because downstairs the lobby has been barbed with wires. We can't even open the glass door to get out.
In terms of essential goods, it is almost the third day, if I'm not mistaken. 20, 21st, 22nd. The third day, some got their essential goods, which is oil, rice and sugar. I would say 75% haven't got. So we couldn't go out and we couldn't even throw the rubbish and things are getting worse.
Because there's a lack of information, we are so helpless and clueless. Today is the third day, and up to now we have not got any information about provisions. I did hear about moments ago before I do this recording, there will be a so-called dry food makanan kering. I do not know what is that, to be collected later. That will only be known when it's happened, because I'm not sure for certain.
Yesterday, they distributed food in Pasar 3, but eventually it didn't come to Pasar 1 and Pasar 2. I don't know why. Which we waited until 9 something, there's no news. But the photo came in of the food. They are strictly telling us to go back to our house. No coming down. Totally barbed wire is on the entrance, so you can't even jump over it. Even yesterday, they were showing some video clips on how they throw the rubbish.
When I came, this place was very good, very conducive. At this time, especially the last 4 to 5 years, we had a surge of influx of the refugees here. Because basically here we have 3 blocks. These 3 blocks consist approximately 512 units. And subsequently, only today I learned that majority of the people who are staying here are actually the foreigners. And those locals who are staying here are actually the owners, whereby we have no place to go or no place to stay.
There's about 85% of them staying around this vicinity of 5 kilometers surrounding.
Coming up next, the WHO is trying to squash allegations that the coronavirus was made in a lab. All that and more after this. Since the outbreak started, many people have been speculating about the origin of the novel coronavirus. However, the WHO says it originated from an animal and not a lab.
The World Health Organization is trying to play down theories that the novel coronavirus was produced by a lab or manipulated by one. On Tuesday, a WHO spokesperson, Fadila Chaib, said that all available evidence shows the virus originated from animals in China late last year. It was not clear, however, according to the WHO, how exactly it jumped from animal to human. The WHO believes the virus likely originated in bats, but likely had an intermediate animal host between bats and humans, and that host is currently unknown. She did not respond to a request to elaborate on whether an accidental release from a lab was possible. US President Donald Trump said last week that his government was trying to determine whether the virus emanated from a lab in Wuhan. The Wuhan Institute of Virology has also dismissed rumors both that it synthesized the virus or allowed it to escape. The WHO says it is continuing to assess the situation and work with partners to fill the gap after Trump announced he was cutting funding to the agency last week. The United States is the Geneva-based agency's largest donor. Other major contributors include the Gates Foundation and Britain.
And that is all from me today. For more stories, you can go to kinitv.com. You can also follow us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube and Facebook for the latest news stories. I'll see you again tomorrow, same time, same place. I'm Prasad Michael. Thank you for watching.